I couldn't be more excited today to have with me a favorite pediatrician of mine, Dr. William Sears, known by many as Dr. Bill Sears. For those who don't know, my first pediatric experience was working at the Sears clinic, and I couldn't be more grateful for my time there. My heart is so full and warm today to have the first man who ever gave me a job, Dr. Bill. He has been a wealth of knowledge and for me, a model of what health really looks like. So having him here today as the world famous pediatrician and a mentor is especially meaningful. I'm going to read to you a little background about Dr. Bill, and he's going to tell us about his new book, The Healthy Brain Book. This is a live stream, and we welcome any questions. So please feel free to jump on and give us some of your most difficult and challenging questions that you just don't have time for in the pediatric office. That is why I created Doc Talks. We often run out of time in the small office window of 10 to 15 minutes to get our questions answered by our pediatrician and our specialists. So thank you so much for being generous with your time, Dr. Bill. I'm so excited and grateful.
Well, thank you, Vivi. This is a real honor to be with you. Thank you. We used to work together.
I'm so happy that you agreed to be here. So Dr. Still, I'm going to read his short bio from his webpage, Ask Dr. Sears. It's a very well-written webpage, and I often direct patients to that for anything from asthma to tips on teething. So Dr. Bill, as his little patients call him, has been advising busy parents on how to raise healthier families for over 50 years. He received his medical training at Harvard Medical School's Children's Hospital in Boston and the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, the world's largest hospital, where he was Associate Ward Chief of the Newborn Intensive Care Unit before serving as the Chief of Pediatrics at the Toronto Western Hospital, a teaching hospital of University of Toronto. He has served as a professor of pediatrics at the University of Toronto, University of South Carolina, University of Southern California School of Medicine, and the University of California, Irvine. As a father of 8 children, he coached Little League sports for 20 years, and together with his wonderful wife, I can say that, has written more than 40 best-selling books and countless articles on nutrition, parenting, and healthy aging. He serves as a health consultant for magazines, TV, radio, and other media. And his AskDrSears.com website is one of the most popular health and parenting sites. Dr. Sears has appeared on over 100 television programs, including 2020, Good Morning America, Oprah, Today, The View, and Dr. Phil. And he was featured on the cover of Time magazine in May 2012. He is noted for his science made simple and fun approach to family health. Dr. Bill, you'll be happy to know some of your patients, the parents with kids grown out of college with their own children, are watching today. And I hope that they send us some of their questions. I'm sure they're so excited to see you.
Oh, well, thank you, Vivi. Thank you. Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's all sincere. Anyone who's met you is so grateful. And really, it's humbling to read this prelude because you're nothing, you're just so down to earth and easy to talk to, and you're so great with the kids. And I forget how prolific and world-renowned you are, because I don't mean to take you for granted, but I probably do by just having you in my cell a phone call away.
I'm just a small town doc here in California.
Doing such great things. You called me from Japan to offer me my first job, and I was so excited. You said, I'm going to call you later. I'm in Japan, and I'd love to meet you. And you were excited about a presentation I had done on breastfeeding and breast milk. So that was how we connected.
Oh, so I remember that.
Oh, all right. So why don't we, I asked Dr. Bill because everything I learned about nutrition, what came from either the handouts, the literature, or talking to Dr. Bill, I love preventative medicine, and that really stemmed from being at your office and a lot of my personal passions. So I asked Bill to add in, on top of the brain information, a little bit on healthy eating tips for picky eaters and growing children. And for those of you who don't know, he has wonderful books. I always direct people to your book, The Healthiest Child on the Block. I believe that's the title, and they can find that on Amazon. But why don't you, what do you love to tell people that they often don't know when they come into your office regarding health?
Well,
preventative health and food.
You mentioned picky eaters, Vivi, and and that term picky eater, which I hear every day, and you probably do too. Oh, Dr. Vivi, my child is such a picky eater. And that's why we wrote the book, The Healthiest Kid in the Neighborhood, to describe that. Then I realized if almost every child's a picky eater, maybe they're designed that way. And so I figured out that tiny children have tiny tummies, the size of their fist. So the first thing I tell moms is, next time you put that huge bowl of pasta in front of your 2-year-old and they only eat a little bit of it, put the fist next to the bowl of pasta and notice the mismatch. This is why children are born nibblers. They like to nibble all day long. So the size of their fist is the size of an average toddler meal, and really at all ages. So what we decided after 8 children, we figured out what picky eating is. And so we developed what we call the nibble tray idea. You know, we had 8 children. We couldn't stand around and make sure everyone finished their meal. So with Matthew, number 6, Matthew, what we did is we made a nibble tray, an ice cube tray or a muffin tin. And in the morning, we'd fill it with nutritious nibblies, little things they could dip. And we call them fun things, broccoli trees and orange wheels. And kids love to dip. So we'd put hummus dip, guacamole, yogurt, cheese dip. And they dip, and Matthew would dip his little broccoli trees in cheese. Well, we noticed that by the end of the day, his tummy was full and the nibble tray was empty. And we thought, yeah, children are born nibblers. They like to nibble all day long. And so that's how we fed the picky eater. A nibble tray was a way we did it. And then when they got older, we introduced smoothies, which we'll talk about later. So the picky eaters, they outgrow that stage, but make a nibble tray.
And I have been such a big advocate of people letting their children explore and be messy with their food, because a trend I've been seeing is the clean tray, not letting kids explore and get messy, makes them take the food away and force feed with a spoon when they're toddlers. And that's just a recipe for hating the period where they're locked in a seat and they can't play and have fun with their food. So I love what you're saying, because it's very true. I put in little small Tupperwares different things. Yes. And my daughter put quinoa kale salad inside the cup of an avocado. She won't eat avocado unless it's in the peel, and that makes it fun because she has to get it out. Same with peas or edamame, all organic. She loves opening it and eating it. Anything that's a challenge for her to get in her mouth. So she'll put the quinoa salad in the avocado peel after she eats the avocado and eat it out of there. And it's just adorable. And it makes my heart sing that she's choosing healthy foods.
Yeah, see, and Vivi, what you said, you're in charge of what she eats. She's in charge of how she eats.
Exactly.
And it's a perfect match. It's just a perfect match. And there are 3 magic words that I want parents to think about. And it's called shaping young tastes. Shaping young tastes. So when you bring up a toddler, say from birth to 2 years of age, and feed them only real foods, nothing out of a box, only real foods, what happens is that becomes their real taste. And here's how it works. Say you put avocado, which was my favorite, which is our starter food.
Yes, absolutely.
You put it on the baby's tongue around 6 or 7 months. And the tongue has taste buds, and it sends nerves from the tongue up to the brain. And the brain says, like, because the avocado is full of fat, and I'm a fathead up here, the brain's mostly fat. So the brain registers the like that the tongue likes. And over, say, 3 or 4 meals a day with fruits and veggies and salmon and avocados, just all real foods, right out of the garden, real foods, pretty soon the brain and the tongue start talking to each other and register like. And then your child's crave center, we call it. The crave center in the brain is wired for life to crave the very foods that you started the first 2 years. Grow your child's crave center for real foods.
Do you believe, because I truly believe that what a mother's eating when she's pregnant is already shaping what that baby's going to want and desire? Is that anything you've read or learned?
Yes, it is. Actually, they actually did a little study on that. You can shape young tastes in the womb. But one thing that you mentioned, one of the biggest nutrient deficiencies for the pregnant mother is omega-3 fats. So follow me closely why. The brain of a baby grows fastest in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. Secondly, the brain of a baby grows fastest in the first 2 years than any other time in the baby's life. So, and the brain is 60% fat. So I tell pregnant mothers and mothers after birth, you're growing and feeding a little fat head. And the number 1 fat in the brain is omega-3 fats.
Yep.
Now, and the best source is it comes from seafood. Most pregnant mothers don't like seafood. They lose their taste for fish. Like wild salmon's still the best. But if you don't, then you need to take an omega-3 supplement during pregnancy. So, and this is new. So what we now do, and with all of our pregnant mothers in our office, we measure an omega-3 index, which is just a drop of blood.
And we were doing that. You were doing a study while I was there.
Yeah, we did that study.
We were testing breast milk, and
exactly.
So I was
and we tell moms 1 gram a day you have to take.
Absolutely.
And
all my patients are doing that.
So we measure it to prove it. So omega-3s is your top brain food during pregnancy and early childhood.
I'll move to the next agenda because I do have a question about that. Something I've been noticing. This is we're talking about why the brain is so susceptible to nutrition, but I have, of course, been giving even infants and toddlers DHA. I did talk with Metagenics, which is my personal choice when it comes to DHA, by the way they purify it. And they're telling me that I was asking why the EPA is not in there for children, and the studies just are showing that the DHA is just so much more critical. And do you know anything about EPA in the newborn period and infancy and growing child versus DHA?
Yes, DHA is your top fat in the brain.
Okay.
Now this is a little. I'll make biochemistry very simple for you. These are called long chain fatty acids. Chains meaning carbon, and the longer the chain, the smarter the fat. DHA is your long chain carbon atom. All right, it's got 22 long chains. Now, DHA is what they add now to infant formula finally, because they want to copy breast milk. Breast milk's very rich in DHA. So when you feed the baby DHA, the brain and the liver can convert the DHA down to EPA to what you need. So you take EPA, and then the body decides how much of that DHA, how much of the DHA do I need to convert to EPA, and it's called retroconversion. So the body makes its own EPA. Now, but if you eat EPA, you may not anti-convert that up to DHA. So I think the advice you got of just DHA, some supplements come in both DHA and EPA, that's fine. But DHA for children is the number one. And here's how I tell parents to think about this. Think about the brain and food. The brain is mostly fat, as we said. I give my little fathead talk at 6 months. Hey, you're growing a little fathead. And the moms will think, well, so what? Well, what is it about fat? Why are brain illnesses the number one illnesses now at all ages, especially older age and even teens now? The brain, for the first time in our lifetime, is now sicker than the heart. So
can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me, when you say there's more brain illness now, can you define what you're categorizing as brain illness? Are you talking about concussion, Alzheimer's, all of it?
In the older, it'd be Alzheimer's, dementia. Okay. At all ages, it's ADHD, BPD, OCD, the big D, depression, anxiety, all the Ds. We have an epidemic of Ds, in other words. Now, one of the reasons, Vivi, is fat. Fat is most susceptible to oxidation. You ever left a piece of fresh fish out overnight and you smell it in the morning and it stinks? That's called oxidation. So our brain oxidizes. So therefore, we need to eat antioxidants, which are fruits, veggies, berries. See, so this is why a fruit, veggie, berry, salmon, that's why you put all those foods together and the brain registers like, because you're feeding the fathead smart fats like salmon, avocados, eggs, olive oil, and nuts. Go nuts. Brain loves the nuts. So you feed them smart fats, but then you feed them salads to keep the fats from oxidizing. So this is the theory behind feeding the brain antioxidants and smart fats.
I'm just putting some notes in here for people who want to peek at what we're talking about. I'm saying that ADD, OCD, depression, would you say even concussion syndromes?
Yes, exactly. So the concussion is inflammation, and the reason. Again, the brain is the number one organ most affected by nutrition, for better or worse. You put junk food in the brain, you get junk behavior and junk learning. So I want parents to remember that the brain's the number one organ that is most affected by what you eat at all ages.
Okay. All due to. So those are your top favorite foods to help the brain for nutrition?
Yes, actually, I call it my top by start 7. I go to the five fats. Salmon, wild salmon. Wild salmon is your top brain food. And if you don't believe me, Google the nutrient content of the brain. Google the nutrient content of a fillet of wild salmon, put them side by side, and there's no other food on the planet that has that perfect nutrient match. 5 big nutrients in salmon are the 5 top nutrients in the brain. So you got salmon, eggs, olive oil, avocados, and nuts. 5 healthy fats. And then number 6 is berries. Number 7 is greens. So those are my
salmon, eggs, olive oil.
Smart 7, I call it. My smart 7 for that's again salmon, avocados, eggs, olive oil, nuts, berries, and greens. And there's a lot of science behind that, Vivi. I know when we work together, I'm a science, show me the science type of doctor, because parents are precious, children are precious, So we're not going to give any advice, and you don't either on your program that's not based with solid science. So those 7 foods that I mentioned are backed by solid science and common sense.
And that is all we eat in our home, thanks to my
Mhm.
my almost decade being in your presence at the Sears clinic. So great. We could talk forever about what all those nutrients are. I have plenty of handouts on what you can find in nuts and berries, avocado, olive oil, and salmon. I did have a talk with a great cardiologist who talked about olive oil, and that should be your main cooking oil.
Well,
So,
Vivi, you mentioned cardiology. I'm glad you did that because the brain and the heart. There's my brain right there, that little brain
mhm,
thing. Now I get a little exercise, and there's the heart. The brain and the heart are partners in health. Now, why? Because every organ of the body is only as healthy as the blood flow to it. Point number one. The better the blood flow to the brain, the better the brain works. So this is why our heart is meant to pump more blood to the brain, and that's why we gotta get moving. We gotta get moving. This whole bit of sit at home is not. It's not. It
mhm,
doesn't mean sit. See,
mhm,
so movement,
mhm.
movement, and that's why I hold. I in my office I teach it this way. I say you hold the 5 keys to your brain health in the palm of your hand. Eat smart, move smart, think smart, sleep smart, and socialize smart. That was easy.
I do have a question here that might not be so relevant, but it's about a baby that is throwing up in the last 2 days and seems like they're not holding any food. How can I make sure she gets the nutrients she needs? Babies, we have a very strict set of rules of how we care for when they're little. So when if your baby's throwing up in over 2 days, that's something that you would need to talk to your pediatrician about right away because of electrolyte deficiencies. So we can't really throw all these foods unless it's in breast milk into a baby, and you probably need to find out why the baby's throwing up. Do you want to say anything to that
Yes. Well,
to that question?
you mentioned breast milk,
Mhm.
Vivi. The smartest food on the planet. We've always known that. And but there's a new science out, the microbiome. That's the best word in medicine right now. Microbiome. The
Mhm.
microbiome simply means the community of gut bugs, bacteria that live in your gut, and in return for free food and a warm place to live, these gut bugs make medicines for you. They make medicines for you. And the better you feed the gut bugs, the better medicines they make for you. And discovered a nutrient in breast milk.
Yeah,
I call
mhm.
it MOM, MOM, milk oriented microbiota. That's our term for it's a nutrient in breast milk that feeds the baby's growing gut garden. So the lining of the gut when a baby comes into the world, it's very fertile, but it's not growing much. So mother fertilizes her baby's gut. So I tell mom every time, moms when they're nursing, just imagine when you're nursing your baby, you look down at your baby and imagine your baby saying, I love mom, MOM, milk oriented microbiota. Thank you, mom, for fertilizing my growing gut garden.
Okay, she thanks you. All right. So the next, so you want, so the, I loved, thank you so much. In summary, we know that oxidation is a constant process that we have to fight off with healthy foods. And the next part of the talk is 5 health tips for the brain.
Yes. And we mentioned I get five, and I'll go through each one. Eat smart. All right. Eat smart. I call it my 5S diet.
Mhm.
Smoothies,
Mhm.
big green smoothies, salads with spices, salmon, smart snacking. Smart snacking with the rule of twos, I call it. Eat twice as often, eat half as much, and chew twice as long. The brain doesn't like gorging.
Yes.
The brain doesn't like sugar spikes. So graze, smart snacking. And then the fifth is science-based supplements. So that's eat smart. Secondly, move smart. The more you move, the better your brain. You get out there in the morning, you're with a group of friends saying, "Oh, I'm feeding my brain garden. I'm fertilizing my brain garden by getting more blood flow to my brain." And then, thirdly, uh, think smart. Toxic thoughts. Toxic thoughts you want to keep out of your brain as much as possible. And because how you think grows tissue in your brain. So the better you think, the happier you think, the better your brain grows. Number four, sleep smart. During sleep is when your body detoxes. Just imagine you're going into your bedroom, you're falling asleep, and it's like going into a detox center.
Mhm.
Your brain washes out. You actually get a brain wash at night. Your brain washes out all the toxins that accumulated overnight. It dumps them into the river called the lymphatic system. The
Yep.
whole thing is called the lymphatic system. And then, so you're detoxing at night. And this is why oftentimes at night you go to sleep with a problem and you wake up with a solution because you can think better. That's number four, sleep smart, and then socialize smart. Our brain loves socializing. And this is why this is my 50th year in pediatric practice. And the reason I do it, I call it the
Mhm.
helper's high. The
Mhm.
brain loves the helper's high.
Yep.
And that simply means your brain feels good when you do good.
Mhm.
Your brain feels good by doing good. So that's really the five keys. Eat smart, move smart, think smart, sleep smart, and socialize smart.
Those are great tips. Simple and true. And in some sense, we all have heard about doing those 5 tips, but it never hurts to hear it again from someone who's got the wisdom and the science behind it. So let's move on. These are just so great. I just love getting information from the source. Our next agenda is how what we think can change how well we think.
Now,
And this is where we
first,
end.
thinking. All right, just imagine you have two centers in your brain, the happy center and the sad center.
Mhm.
And there's a motto among neurologists that says, uh, how our thoughts flow, our brain tissues grow, which means that the thoughts that come into your brain can either grow your happy center
Mhm.
or grow your sad center.
Mhm.
So, what do you want to fertilize your brain garden? See, the brain garden, Vivi, the brain is like a garden. I make it simple for kids. The brain is like a garden, and you have 90 to 100 billion plants in your brain called neurons.
Mhm.
And how do you feed a garden? You feed and fertilize it, you water it, blood flow, and you keep the pests out. And what are pests in a garden, in a brain garden? Toxic thoughts. So the less toxic thoughts you can have, the better your happy center grows. And I want to shrink my sad center and grow my
Mhm.
happy center. And
Mhm.
so I start kids get this.
Oh,
And
for
so
sure.
in
Yeah.
my office, I'll say, all right, let's grow your happy center. And I'll grow a big smiley face and a brain that's a happy center. And so here's what I want you to do tonight when you go to bed. When you go to bed, I want you to lie down. Maybe mom or dad will lie down with you, and I want you to think 5 things I like about me. I
Wonderful.
am smart. I am funny. I have beautiful hair. I am a great cheerleader. I am
Mhm,
loved. I am. And then you go to
mhm,
sleep.
mhm.
And then you write on a big tablet or a piece of paper and you hang it on your bathroom window as you're
Mhm.
on your
Mhm.
mirror as you're brushing your teeth. Five
Right.
things I like about me. That's the last thing you think about when you go to bed and the first thing you think about when you wake up.
Wonderful.
See, so start the day. Happy hour is how we
Mhm.
start the day with the brain. Happy hour is how we end the day with the brain. Simple little tips like that. I am smart. I am happy. Um, you want to just program into your
Wonderful.
brain, into the child's brain, and give tools. See, parenting, maybe we've learned this years ago. Parenting in a nutshell is giving your children the tools to succeed in life.
It's
What better
critical.
tool right now is brain health, stress management. Kids are being stressed out. They are on overload.
Mhm.
So it's time for parents to say, okay, hon, give me five things I like about you, five things I like about you. You're so smart, you're so happy, that type of thing. Build their happy center and shrink their sad center.
I'm so glad we're ending on this because since I started pediatrics, I've always had such a good sense of self, and it helps when you're successful and you're
Mm-hmm.
getting awards at school, but not everyone's getting the awards at school. And it was shocking to see how an unhappy child unwinds any good we do in health as a pediatrician. And I always remind parents when they're getting so upset over some small things. And I said, you got to look at the big picture. Right now, I'm worried about your child not being happy. We need to make sure your child's happy before we work on anything else.
Mm-hmm.
They'll always struggle with their weight and other things, but you need to help them love themselves and their body and be happy. So let's
Yep.
simplify things. So we're just working on being happy and then we'll work on the rest. An, a depressed child, there's no other disease or illness that I
Mm-hmm.
would wish that I would it's my least favorite diagnosis for a human or a child,
Yeah.
depression. So working on how to be positive, taking out all the extra stresses that you can potentially remove from their world is so important right now. Social media is telling them they need to be this, that, and the other. And so I love that this is the last point you're making
Yeah.
about how that great tip about putting the five things they like about themselves, or that even if they're not there yet, because I have some kids who are borderline depressed and they hate everything about themselves. You got to maybe the parent picks them out for a little bit
Right. And
and
one of
puts
the
them up.
top tips, Vivi, for very simple for depression,
Mhm.
go outside and play. If I had
Yes.
to summarize all the science and the
Mhm.
simplest tip in the world, go outside and play. Movement outdoors is called exercise squared outdoors. Movement outdoors is medicine for the mind. So remember how our mothers used to say
Mhm.
that for boredom and bad behavior. Go outside and play. Well, that's very true nowadays. Go outside and play.
I just put that in as our last comment. I honestly was stuck in traffic. There was a terrible accident. I'm sure you heard about it over by San Onofre of seeing a newborn. I was on my way to see a newborn in San Diego, and at 1.5 hours, 1 hour in, I had 2.5 hours left that kept lengthening. So I did a Zoom call on the side of the road, and I took advantage because I always have my gym gear, and I put my running clothes on, and I did a little live post on Facebook. You can do these streams that are stories that disappear. And I just said, hey, everyone, get up out of your seat and get out, because nothing felt better in that moment after the stress of being in the traffic. Even if you have 15 minutes, and that was during the pandemic when moms are working and taking care of the kids, they have no time for exercise for themselves. But my best friend, who's a radiologist and has 3 little boys at home, she said, Vivi, remember that 15 minutes is better than nothing. and getting the blood flowing, 15 minutes. It's that attitude during the pandemic has saved me. So I told everyone who follows me, I said, get up and get out of your seat and get out, because it was a beautiful day. It was so beautiful yesterday. So thank you. Is there any last closing comment you want to make? If anyone wants to reach you, they can find you on your website. Does that sound right?
Yes, we have a website, askdrsears.com, and we have an institute called the Dr. Sears Wellness Institute, where we train health coaches. And this is my dream come true, Vivi. We've now trained over 11,000 health coaches in 22 countries. So this is our way of bringing health tips and healthy living skills to as many people in the world as we can by certifying health coaches.
Well, thank you for all that you do. I am personally eternally grateful for your tutelage and knowledge and wisdom and your humility and sharing with everyone what you've learned through the years. I'll recap anything in the comments and answer them there. You have a wonderful day. Give my love to Martha and the boys.